Check, check, check. What's going on? I was meaning to get to this stream a little earlier, but we are here now, and we're gonna get into the rest of these receivers. Okay, we went over the top 10 the other night. We're going basically all the way up to 100. We're gonna fly through kind of the guys that are about 50 and up. So all the receivers that are ranked from 50 to 100, we're gonna kind of fly through. So won't be that long of a stream today. I'm probably not gonna bring up really any stats. Like I said, I've been up all day, so we're gonna try to get through this and then you know, call it a night, and then probably see you guys you know, Monday, Tuesday. Tomorrow I'm gonna focus on solely getting content as far as videos put out and ready for the week ahead. So let me just get a couple of things situated. We will be ready to dive into this. Alrighty, I think we are just about ready. It's gotta be a way to get out of this thing. All right, let's jump into it today. For some reason, I did not put this thing in here, so this needs to come over here anyways. All right. I don't know if I put this in my thing or not. I'm gonna have to put this in real quick into the stream deck. That way we have this in there. Oh, let's go with this guy. Why not? And then All right. Move this out of the way. Get rid of this. All right. So you see the guys on the screen. We got AJ Brown. We got Chris Olave. We got Christian Watson, Drake London, George Pickens. These guys are all kind of the topic of conversation as far as guys that are just outside the top 10 in the wide receiver rankings. We'll dive into these guys as we go on. There's a couple other guys as well I haven't mentioned. Just be on the lookout for these guys and for whatever value that you know, look for the value with these guys and especially auction leagues. And really, there's a couple guys in redraft that are going kind of late that you might be able to find some value on. And so we will go ahead and put these guys up on the board here. I got Chris Olave at 11, Amon-Ra St. Brown out of Detroit 12, AJ Brown 13, T Higgins 13, Devontae Smith 15. You know, as far as the top 10 goes with receivers, running backs, you know, quarterbacks, and eventually we'll get to tight ends, but as far as the top 10 goes, those guys are pretty solidified in those spots. They're really kind of the easier ones to make. As far as these guys that are just outside the top 10, there could be a number of guys in these spots. You know, I think there's a couple that, you know, could jump into the top 10 this year. You know, 100%. Chris Olave, I got this guy at 11. He's one of the ones I was talking about right before we ended the last stream, that I was basically saying this guy could have been in my top 10 potentially. If he didn't have Derek Carr, and he had somebody else at quarterback, I would really could have moved him up a little more than what I have him here at 11. But this guy out of Ohio State, his rookie campaign last year, he really started to show signs of improvement as the season progressed, and this guy can do it all. You know, Garrett Wilson, his teammate at Ohio State, who I have ranked a couple spots ahead, he obviously had a little bit better of a rookie season, I believe. If I go back and look here. Oh, they don't even show these guys as rookies anymore from last year. But, you know, Wilson doesn't run quite as fast. He doesn't run the deep route as good as Olave, but he does do almost everything else a little bit better than Olave. They are pretty close. You know, I'm gonna be curious to see if Olave maybe improved a little bit of route running, improved a little bit of just getting in and out of his cuts and everything. And if that's the case, this guy could really move up as long as, you know, his quarterback is feeding him the ball. So Chris Olave, I got him projected for $23. This guy is my other keeper other than Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker in my league, in my auction league. I'm keeping this guy for 16. So, you know, a little less than what I got him projected for. But this guy's been going, he's been going like third round in redraft. Some people might be getting him in the early fourth, but in a 12-man league in redraft, this guy's been going in the third round. I don't know if it's too high. I don't think so. I think the second round would be too high. If you're drafting this guy in the second round, I think it's a little too high. I think you're reaching a little bit, in my opinion. But this guy could be a solid number 2 receiver. I don't think he's quite a number 1 yet. Could he be a number 1 on some teams in the redraft? Of course. It just depends on what you do in the first 2 rounds of redraft. If you have a running back and back-to-back rounds, round 1 and 2, this guy could be your first receiver on your team potentially. I don't think it's horrible to get stuck with this guy as far as your first receiver. It could be worse. It could be like Michael Pittman or Amari. Well, I don't know if I would quite throw Amari Cooper in there, but it could be could definitely be like somebody like Michael Pittman. And I don't know, even Debo. I don't even know if I would want Debo as my first receiver off the board in a redraft. Who knows what's going on in San Francisco right now? We don't even know who the quarterback's going to be. I'm guessing it's going to be Trey Lance, but who knows what's going to happen with him? So, all right. So I don't really have much else on Olave. I think he's a pretty safe pick this year. I would like to get him at wide receiver too, like I said. $23 isn't bad also in auction. I could see people spending around 25, 26 for him. I wouldn't go much higher than that. At that point, you should be spending money on some, like if you're going to spend that money, you should go get somebody else that's a little better than him inside the top 10. So let's move on. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Detroit, projected for 28. He's a year older. He's going to be a year older than Olave. He's only 24. This is, I believe, his 3rd year in the season now. This guy, if he could just stay healthy, he could have a pretty big year. I wouldn't say super big, but top 12. He's obviously going to be kept in my league. Him and T. Higgins, as you can see, same color. They're owned by the same guy. I got them both being kept. He's being kept for $12. That's, it doesn't get much cheaper than that. So I got him going for 28 though. If you're in a rebid league, or if you're in a first year league where you don't have any keepers, 28 is going to be roughly the ballpark you're in for this guy. I could see 30s though. I could definitely see 30s depending on who's in your league. Maybe they like this guy. Maybe they had this guy last year, and a couple of years ago at the end of that year, whenever he started to explode a little bit. So, am I taking this guy in the 30s? Maybe the low 30s if I absolutely have to. I'm not going much higher than 35 though on St. Brown. I do like this guy. I would be trying to get this guy if he wasn't being kept. So, with Jameson Williams, he's kind of the other guy I'm keeping my eye on. He might be one of the guys I go get this year. If he's not, I don't think Jameson Williams is going to be kept. I think, we'll get to Jameson Williams, his counterpart on the other side of the line. But St. Brown is a solid choice at receiver. Just don't overpay for this guy. Don't pay into the 40s, okay? You should be able to get him cheaper for that. You should be able to get him cheaper than 35, or really even 30 in my opinion. Really, so like in an auction league, you nominate players. At least that's what we do. We don't just go off the top guys. We have a draft order, just like any other draft, but you can nominate whoever you want. Like in the first round, you can nominate a kicker if you want. You can nominate a defense if you want. If this guy doesn't get nominated super early, which hopefully he won't. Gosh, I'm tired. If you don't nominate him early, or if somebody else in your league doesn't nominate him early, you should be able to... I should probably turn this down. I'm sorry about that. Sorry about the music. We got it down now. Okay, so if you nominate Brown later, or if he gets nominated later, you should be able to get him relatively cheap. A lot of people are going to spend a bunch of their money at that point in time. You'll be able to get him cheaper than this price tag potentially if he gets nominated in an auction draft later. So I do like this guy though. Go get him if you can. Like I said, in my league, it's not really an option if Delano keeps him, which he probably will. All right, moving on. AJ Brown, 13. You know, a lot of people might question why he's here on my list outside the top 10. I owned this guy last year, okay? I had him in Olave. And I think I paid about $25 for him, which was really, really cheap. So you can understand why I got the $34 price tag on. He is obviously the highest guy outside of the top 10 as far as my projections go at receiver. But that's just because he's coming off of a really good season. He's kind of a big name guy. He's with the Eagles, which this will be his second year, and everybody's seen what he did last year, so they're gonna use that. You know, they're gonna springboard his value just based off of that. You know, those reasons. But you know, I know I said the other day when you got two good receivers on the same team, it's usually not you know, it's not bad if that's the case, because you know people used to say, well, oh, you know, if there's two number one receivers on the same team, one guy's gonna get you know, he's gonna get a bunch of his targets and his catches taken from him. You know, he's gonna lose you know, he's gonna lose catches or whatever. But I don't think that so much with Tyreek and Waddle and Higgins and Chase, that's really the case. But I do kind of think it is the case a little bit between Brown and Devontae Smith. So it just seemed like last year, because I followed a lot of the Eagles games because I had Brown, and it seemed like he had a couple monster games last season. And Smith didn't do anything. He didn't do anything in those games. And then it was kind of vice versa. When Smith had a pretty good game, you know, Brown didn't really do anything, it seemed like. I can maybe double check some of this here for you guys. Cause I had AJ Brown. I remember so week 8, he had that 39.6 against Pittsburgh. Okay, remember 3 touchdowns. He was mocking their defensive backs, you know, that game. Let me see what Smith did that game. I don't think Smith did anything. 4.8 points. So AJ Brown had 39 points. Smith had 4.8. He had 5 catches for 23 yards. He must have had a fumble. Or no, he didn't have a fumble. Ours is only half PPR. So a lot of people that would be 7.3 points. Ours it's just under 5 at 4.8 because we're half PPR. But you get what I'm saying. You know, I think there's a couple other games that are examples here. Let's look at Smith. Smith had 2 good games, okay? Smith had a good game week 3 at Washington. He had just under 31 points. 8 catches for 169. Okay, so we'll mark that one down. And then week 16 at Dallas, just under 30 points, 29.3, over 100 yards again, 8 catches, 2 touchdowns. So let's look at week 3 and 16 for Brown. I'm pretty sure he probably didn't play good because Smith obviously did. Okay, week 3, AJ Brown had 17, so not bad. 5 for 85 and a touchdown. And then week 16, 16.3. That's not bad either. That's pretty good considering Smith had a huge game. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, you know. But whenever Brown did have a good game, like he went for 30 plus. Let's see, week 12 he went for 30 plus too. Or no, it was week 13, right? Yeah, week 13 at Tennessee. That's because Tennessee sucks. That was a revenge game for him too. Against his old team. You know, never mind. Devontae Smith had a good game against Tennessee too. I mean, they just kicked the crap out of Tennessee. So, you know, some weeks that may be the case where you get one of these receivers who goes off and then their counterpart doesn't do too much. But I will say, for the most part, from what I've seen actually, and this actually kind of, you know, I thought maybe it was a little skewed differently with these two guys on the Eagles. But it's actually pretty similar to like Tyreek Hill and Waddle, Jamar Chase, Higgins. Those guys can coexist with each other. Or the trend for the NFL you're starting to see in fantasy is that 2 number 1 receivers on the same team can coexist in fantasy. Okay, not just in real life, but in fantasy they can also coexist and you know, produce at a high level for you. So I remember like a decade ago, dude, or really not even a decade ago, you know, like 5-6 years ago, people would be skeptical of that. They'd be like, oh, I don't know if I want this guy. They got this other guy who's also kind of a number 1 receiver. You know, he might be taking production from my guy, but it's not the case anymore. I don't think. I think it used to be kind of like that, but not anymore. Every team is passing the ball so much now, and the game is it gives so much favoritism to the offense now that you know, the offense just has an easier time scoring because of the rules and how the game is played now. So big advantage to offense. It's not bad if you have 2 receivers that are number 1 guys on the same team. So don't let that scare you in drafting some of these guys. All right, moving on. Let's go T. Higgins and Smith here at the same time. Smith is actually a little bit older. That's actually kind of crazy. Smith's going to be 1 year older. I think Higgins was in the league before Smith was. Smith just probably spent too many years at Alabama. But that's just how it goes with all these Alabama players. A lot of them are 4-year guys because they're all, you know, they're sitting behind guys that are also going to the NFL that are a year or 2 in front of them. So both of these guys respectively, $22, $24. I wasn't really high on Smith his first year in the league, you know, coming off the Heisman, winning the Heisman, and then coming straight into the league. I think a lot of that was to do with Hurts a couple years ago. Hurts was okay a couple years ago, but you could tell he made a huge leap between 2 years ago and then last year. And then now they got AJ Brown as well, right? T. Higgins. Obviously, I like Jamar Chase so much better than Higgins in Cincinnati, but Higgins is not a bad option. You know, 24 and 22 for these guys, it's not bad. I would like to get them under 20, if I'm being honest. I wouldn't stretch to like 30 on these guys though. That's the thing. I wouldn't stretch to 30. If you're gonna do that, go get somebody in the top 10. You know, or take a gamble on somebody who you think might be able to produce more, but is going to cost less. Like Olave. Olave is going to cost a little less, maybe. Like in terms of this year, he probably will for me in our league. But go get somebody like Olave. Go get somebody like London. I like London this year. London's going to be a ball magnet in Atlanta. Atlanta's going to be throwing the ball a lot more than people think. Well, I shouldn't say more than people think, but more than your average terrible team, because they're probably going to be behind in a little more than half of their games. Playing from behind, they're going to have to throw. Now, obviously, Ritter at quarterback, we don't really know quite what he is yet. So, but that's why London's going to go for cheap, okay? London, he's better than some of these guys that I got ranked ahead of him. The only reason why I got him a little bit lower is maybe quarterback play. We don't know what Ritter quite is yet. If Ritter turns out to be pretty good, London's going to be a very good value pick, because he's going to be, I think 18's even a little high for him. You might see him in the $15 range or $14 range. I think anything around the 15 for this guy is, $15. I think that's kind of stealing, I mean, somebody call the police, somebody call the police, because you're stealing this guy if he goes for 15 or less. So yeah, back to Higgins and Smith though. Devontae Smith, get him for like that $20 range, maybe up to 23, but make sure you have another receiver in front of them. These guys are receiver twos for a reason. I like Smith better than Higgins, if I'm being honest. Higgins was dealing with some injury. Really injuries over the last couple of seasons. It seems like he's always got like a foot issue or an ankle, or like he missed a game last year just out of the blue. Like it was like he was set to play. It was like a Sunday night game. He was set to play, and like, he didn't play. He didn't play, and I'm sitting there watching the game, and I'm like, has anybody seen T. Higgins? I'm like, what is going on? And then the guy didn't play, and they didn't have anything like he wasn't listed with an injury or anything. He was like scheduled to play, and then he just sat on the sideline. And then like after the game, they're like, oh yeah, he was, his ankle was bothered. And I was like, well, you guys didn't tell us that? I'm like, a lot of people had that guy starting in their lineup that week, and they took a big fat donut with extra sprinkles. So, it's just stuff like that is the reason why I'm more prone to taking somebody like Smith over him, even though I got him ranked 14, 15. A lot of people are going to have Higgins probably ranked over Smith, but if I could get Smith for a little bit cheaper than Higgins, I'm probably leaning towards taking Smith over him. But Higgins is not a bad option at wide receiver too. So, it's kind of pick your poison, but find the value. If you're comfortable with spending a couple more dollars on Higgins, and be my guest. All right. Moving on to Michael Pittman here. I fell in love with this guy last year a little bit too much, I think. He is a good receiver. He's a big guy. He's kind of very similar to London. I think both of those guys kind of play very similar. Maybe it's because they both were coming out of Southern Cal. I don't know if they played together or not. I don't think so. I believe Pittman and St. Brown played together at USC. I don't know if London might have been there, but he would have been a freshman, you know. But these guys both played really similar, Pittman and London. Pittman he needs a quarterback, man. And who's going to be their quarterback? You know, who knows? Who knows? I'm starting to trend towards Will Levis now. I guess there's talks about, you know, Will Levis, this, whatever. And the thing about Will Levis is that he probably needs to sit a year. Okay? And if he does that, they're going to have Minshew at quarterback. You know, I'm not saying Minshew's a bad quarterback. He was a pretty good backup for the last couple of years. You know, Minshew, I think, is a little bit better than Matt Ryan, and Sam Ellinger, obviously, and whoever the other guy was. They were basically playing musical chairs with the quarterbacks last year. They didn't know who they wanted to start because they all sucked. You know, do they start Will Levis right away or Anthony Richardson? Maybe, but they should not. They should not do that, in my opinion. They need to sit behind somebody like Minshew, who may not be the greatest quarterback, but he can get you through a season. He can definitely get you through a season better than any other quarterback they had last year. They may not make the playoffs, but you won't get embarrassed. You're not going to have the first overall pick because your quarterback, keeps turning the ball over left and right. Minshew will take care of the ball, and he'll win you more games than what the quarterbacks they had on their roster last year. And then you let one of these guys that you draft sit for a year and develop and get better. If not, they're if they want to throw them to the wolves right off the rip, then it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. The only ones that are ready to start right off the, right out of the gate is Young and Stroud. And one of those guys, whoever goes to Carolina, may not even start. Whoever goes number 1 overall may not even start right away. They might sit them behind Andy Dalton for a little while. So, but Pittman, I got him at $12 here. I don't see him going for a whole lot more. Like I said, the uncertainty at quarterback, the bad year that he's coming off of, there's a little value with him. I think he can be decent, but unless Lamar comes to town or something like that, then I'm not rushing to the window to get this guy when there's somebody like Drake London right behind him. There's somebody like St. Brown and Olave a little bit ahead of him that you can maybe pay up a little more and, have a little more comfort. So, all right, moving on. DJ Moore, Drake London. We've already talked about London a little bit. DJ Moore, projected for $26. He just got traded to Chicago. People are gonna move him up on their board a little bit. He is a good receiver, and I don't want to sit here and talk bad about him. The guy played with Darnold and Baker Mayfield. Okay, so yeah, it's tough for any receiver. I don't care who you are. So I think Fields is a little bit better option now at quarterback. Hopefully Fields has maybe progressed here in this offseason. Fields isn't perfect, obviously, but if he can improve over, if I see leaps and bounds of him improving as a passer from last year to this year, DJ Moore could be a number 1 receiver potentially. he doesn't have a whole lot of competition. I'm not worried about Darnell Mooney. I mean, Darnell Mooney, he's not, you know, he's nothing to worry about it if you're a DJ Moore owner. Moore will be the most targeted guy on the team. I think this helps Cole Kmet a little bit as well at tight end. Cole Kmet could be a pretty good tight end to go get this year. I think this helps him. It can't hurt him. I don't care if Moore's going to get a ton of targets and everything. It doesn't hurt somebody like Kmet, which, you know, we'll get to that when we get to the tight ends. But, you know, Moore, 26 years old. He's not that old. He's right in the middle of his prime, really. He should be. And 26 is a little expensive for a guy who hasn't really had too good of really any year that he's been in the league. He hasn't had that good of a, you know, crazy year. But I think I think Chicago, I'm not going to say they win the division, but they're going to be in the run for it. They're going to be, this division is going to go down to like the last week of the season. And like, you know, the last game of the season this year for these guys in the NFC North, they are going to, you know, that last week is going to decide who wins the division, in my opinion. It's going to be a tight race. So, you know, hopefully, the worst thing that can happen for Moore, really, if I'm being honest, is if like Fields gets hurt. And I worry about that too in drafting Fields. I do like Fields at quarterback this year. But the only thing I did worry about was, does he get hurt? He runs the ball a lot. This could be a really good year for Moore, so I don't want to see him finally get a quarterback and then his quarterback just falls off, you know. Falls off and you know, because he gets hurt and then he just ends up falling off on your fantasy team this year. So I would draft him for $25-26 though. He might be a guy that I go get. I mean, I've already showed you all the guys that are being kept in the first or you know, the top 10, the first and second round guys in redraft. I'm gonna have to take my shot with some of these guys. Olave's my number 1, and he's up here at 11. So a lot of these guys that are, you know, Brown, Smith, Pittman, Moore, London. Well, hopefully he don't keep London. I might go get London. But these guys, I'm gonna have to maybe take a chance on because I don't have any other options. Debo and McLaurin. I'm not big on Debo. This guy's gonna obviously keep him for $14. He probably should. I'm not high on Debo this year. I'm just not. You know, I don't trust the I don't really trust the Niners this year at all. I don't really trust a whole lot of anybody on their team. I don't even know if I trust McCaffrey. You know, Debo just, I have a feeling he might be on the IR at some point, you know, missing a few games here or there. Who knows? Even McCaffrey, dude. San Francisco is a hospital. Like they, you know, they have a hospital right down the street from the stadium because they have so many guys that get, you know, that get hurt. And I don't know if I want to take the risk on these guys. Debo's going to be expensive in a rebid league. He's kind of big name, name recognition, caller ID. People know him. He had a good year a couple of years ago. Last year wasn't too bad. So, you know, this is kind of how I look at Debo this year. He's just not that guy. He's not that guy. I don't think. I don't think he's that guy that you're drafting super high, or you're spending something like $26 on this year, but you're going to be because of who he is. But I think, and who knows who the quarterback is going to be, dude? You know what I mean? If like Rodgers somehow ended up in San Francisco, then I would have maybe a different perspective on this. But Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, who knows if Purdy can get the job back whenever he comes back from injury? Who knows if Lance can stay healthy? Does anybody know who the third stringer is still? Does anybody know? I don't. Is it Dobbs still? I'd have to go look, but even if that is the case, I don't want anything to do with that guy or anybody on that offense if that guy's running it. So, yeah, Debo, try to get him for like less than like 18 or 16 or somewhere in the high 20s. Go get somebody like Brown, one of the Browns, St. Brown or AJ Brown. Go get Olave. Go get Smith even. I'll take Smith and Higgins probably over him this year. I'm just not too high on Debo this year. They don't know how they want to use him. And I don't trust the quarterbacks at all, so not until they prove something to me. And Purdy maybe, but Purdy's probably not going to be starting. So and then he's gonna, then they're gonna have a QB competition in the middle of the season, which is not what you want to see. So Terry McLaurin. Or should I go back to Drake London? Just take Drake London, okay? Just if people don't want to take Drake London at this kind of price, then I don't know what to say. Good, yeah, exactly, good. That's right. More for me and you got, if you got people in there in your league that don't want to take this guy, then be my guest. All right, 20. Capping out top 20. Terry McLaurin, Washington. This guy's 28. He's getting a little old, which is crazy. It just didn't seem like he was that old. Another Ohio State receiver. I will say, as much as I talk crap about Ohio State, give them crap, they do have good receivers that come out of there like every year. And then they got Marvin Harrison Jr. next year. I can't wait for that guy. That guy is a freak of nature. Terry McLaurin, though, I'm starting to trend. If we go to here to our draft order here, I'm kind of trending towards. You see this pick right here, Washington. With this new ownership group that they have, maybe they go get Lamar. Maybe they turn the culture around, right? Completely flip it on its head. In this new ownership group, they just go offer Lamar and go get somebody like Lamar to try to turn this franchise around. Maybe they don't use this pick. Maybe they use 2024 and 2025. I thought Lamar was for sure, I would say for sure, but I had I was feeling highly about him staying with the Ravens after the Odell trade, but apparently Odell said he didn't get any assurances, which I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if he's lying, maybe he is, maybe he's not, who knows. But Washington's like not too far from Baltimore. So Lamar wouldn't have to really pack up and move. Washington's got this new ownership group coming in. They have Ron Rivera at head coach. Keep in mind that Ron Rivera, Coach Cam Newton, he has experience with coaching these running quarterbacks. Okay, I think he would fit really good in Washington. I just do. So maybe McLaurin, going back to McLaurin, you know, you probably don't pay too much for him. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I also like his counterpart in Jahan Dotson. But if they go get Lamar, it's not out of the question. You know, people might think that that's crazy. Oh, Washington will do that. With that new ownership group, who knows what they're going to do? They might give up the house. They might give up the house to go get Lamar. They haven't really had a good quarterback since RG3 for 1 year. You know, RG3 had one good year, and then he was never the same quarterback. But they haven't had a good quarterback since who knows when, you know? Since Mark Brunell, you know? And obviously Mark Brunell wasn't that good, but that's a joke. Yeah. Maybe they go get somebody like Lamar. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I think they ought to. I think they ought to. Well, why not? Why not? They have a pretty good team. They've always had a good defense. Really, the last few years, their defense has been relatively good. You know, upper half of the league. They got a couple decent running backs. You know, Robinson turns out to, you know, he's looking like he could be decent. And you got Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, a receiver. I mean, go get a quarterback. You got the Eagles and the Cowboys and the Giants, who were all played pretty good last year. All three made the playoffs. You know, you got to compete. Go get Lamar. So, $24. That's not bad for McLaurin. I'll be honest, that's not bad for him. That's about par for the course, I think, over just the last couple seasons. Let me double check. Let me see what he's been going the last couple seasons in my league. I think it's about par for the course. It went for 18 last year, 25 the year before. So I might even have him a little overpriced here. Okay. This is his fifth year. 176, 194, 188, and then last year 206. So last year was his best year. So yeah, he might go for a little more, obviously, in my league if he's not kept, which I don't think he will be. This guy has a couple years left. He's got this year and next year for sure, I believe, and he might have another year after that, but you know, they need to go get somebody for this guy, for McLaurin. I feel so bad for McLaurin. McLaurin's been such a good receiver, really. Very reliable, he's only missed, what, a few games? Not very many. He's played 2 seasons in a row without missing a game. You know, all his numbers here are in the yellow, which means it's not horrible, but it's not up into the green. He's got some stuff in the green. He actually has nothing in the red throughout his 4 seasons. He needs a quarterback, dude. They got to go get a quarterback. And I think Lamar is really that only option. I mean, can Sam Howell be decent? Sure, but he's not going to get you to win playoff games and stuff and get you to the playoffs right away. He might get him to the playoffs, but he's not competing for a championship right away, in my opinion. So Lamar can potentially do that for you. It shows you how tired I am. I've been up all day. All right, let's start kind of flying through this a little bit. Christian Watson, 24, Green Bay, 16 projected. Go get this guy. Go get this guy, okay? I mean, this guy, if there's people out there that think that this guy maybe can't be quite as good because Aaron Rodgers isn't there anymore, and they're like, oh, well, Jordan Love's there now, so who knows? You know, you want to know what those people have? those people have something called delusions. Okay, they're having delusions. They're having delusions if they think that this guy, you know, isn't going to be good because Rodgers isn't there anymore. This guy is super fast down the field. Runs sub 4.4. And they use this guy on like end arounds and jet sweeps and stuff. This guy ran in, I think he ran in a couple touchdowns last year, or he ran in at least one. They like to use this guy in the running game, which is a little bit of a bonus. You know, there's not too many receivers that they're using like that. He had. Why does it not show rushing for these guys on this freaking app? I know he rushed, okay? I know he rushed for a touchdown, at least one touchdown. I think he probably ran for like close to 200 yards last year, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I just need to go to the Green Bay's team here. Depth chart. Christian Watson. He's the number one guy. He's a number one receiver now. Okay. Dobbs is number 2. This guy. See y'all. See y'all. Let's go. See y'all. He did. He ran for a couple touchdowns. 7 for 80. Okay, I thought he ran for a little more than that, but he did run for 2. Yeah, he ran for 2 touchdowns. I knew he did. 41 catches, 611 yards, 7 touchdowns. He only played 14 games, but this guy has track speed. Love's going to be looking for this guy, I think, about as much as possible. You know, maybe they go get a tight end with this 15th pick. I think they probably do. But I like this guy for cheap. You get this guy for sub 15. This guy was drafted for $1, dude. And then somebody claimed him off of waivers for 20 in our league last year. This guy's 6'5", 210, going into his second year. I do worry about maybe a hamstring problem. I think that's what he missed his 3 games with last year. So hopefully that's not an issue going forward. I will be concerned if he has like hamstring issues this year, especially if it lingers and he's got like say he misses like another 3 or 4 games. I'll be a little worried about him going forward. Okay. Going into 2024 and 2025. So, well, hopefully that's not an issue this year. I still think this guy can produce, and you're going to get him for cheap. You're going to get him for cheap. So, he's worth the gamble, in my opinion. He's just outside the top 20. He could be really a top 20 receiver, but he's a number 2 receiver. He's a low-end wide receiver 2, a high-end wide receiver 3, at the very least. Amari Cooper, $18. This guy in our league is probably going to keep him for 12. That's pretty cheap in my opinion. Gosh, I gotta get off here, man. Cooper, I wouldn't spend too much money on him. He's going to be 29 this year. He's got one good year left, I think. One. He's got one decent year. I wouldn't even say good, but decently good. You know, he's not going to be in the top 5 receivers, I wouldn't think. You know, who knows with Deshaun Watson? Deshaun Watson. He better be working this offseason trying to get better, because he didn't play very well at the end of that the end of last year. Those what, 5 games that he got to play? 4 games he got to play, whatever the heck it was. So, could this be the year that Cooper falls off? Absolutely. Okay. It could be. That's why. That's why it's like I said, dude. You might want to get off the ship a year early instead of going down with it. And for me personally, Cooper,
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
he's not that guy for me. I'm not probably, even if this guy doesn't keep him in our league, I'm not really looking his way this year. He's just too old for me, and you know, it's just too old. Chris Godwin, George Pickens, Jerry Jeudy. All right, 16, 17, $16 range for all three of these guys. Godwin is the older of the three, 27. Pickens is only going to be 22. Jerry Jeudy, 24. Pickens went for like $1 last year, so I got him projecting going a little more here. This might be too high, though. This might be too high in terms of projection for Pickens. Godwin, this seems about right. I can double check that. You gotta think Brady's not there anymore, so people are gonna kind of move him down a little bit. How much do they trust Baker? You know, how much do people trust Baker? I don't hear a lot of trust. Godwin went for $11 last year, 22 years ago. So even this might be a little high for Godwin. I might have Godwin's number coming down a little bit here. Obviously, our league's a little different, but because we have keepers already locked into place. But you know, Godwin, he had, man, he's dealt with a lot of injury really over his he's been in the league for 6 seasons now. This would be season number 7. Remember, he was number 2 overall in PPR that third year. Jameis, which feels like forever ago. That's because it was 4 years ago. And then he had that injury the year after. 164. Brady's first year, he went for 206. Still missed a few games. And then last year, he missed a couple of games. 177. Kind of fell off a little bit. Did go for 100 catches, but barely over 1,000 yards, which is not very good yards per catch. He's under 10, which is not really good. And only had 3. He only had 3 scores. This guy maybe has one more good year in him too, and that could be this year. Okay, I think he's gonna have to pick up. Somebody's gonna have to pick up the slack. Granted, they got Baker Mayfield, so how much slack are they gonna be able to pick up? Who knows? Probably not a whole lot. Like I said, this team's gonna be terrible. This team's gonna be terrible this year. You just watch. Mike Williams is done, or I keep saying Mike Williams. Mike Evans. Mike Evans is probably done after this season. Okay, that guy's dealt with. He's kind of like Julio. He just deals with a hamstring issue every year. It seems like, more like a foot injury every year, like a foot/ankle. And then you look at Godwin. He's missed 2 games, 2 games, 4 games, 3 games, 2 games. And I know it doesn't seem like a whole lot of games, but I think these injuries are starting to pile up on him a little bit. I think, and on top of that, he's got Baker. On top of that, he's got Baker throwing in the ball. You know, Baker is also. He's not that guy. You know, and if anybody thinks that these guys can maybe pull a rabbit out of the hat, get back to the playoffs, get back to the playoffs, I just don't see it, man. I don't see it. you know. And can Godwin stay healthy throughout the whole season? I don't think so. I think this guy's always going to be bound to miss a few games from now until until the time that he retires. This guy, you know, this team with the playoffs. You kidding me? The playoffs? This team is not getting back to the playoffs for a couple of years, probably. They're going to be drafting in the top 10 next year. Okay, we're not talking about this year. Next year. They're going to be, and they might be drafting in the top 10 this year if they trade up, which they probably ought to. Baker's he's not the answer long term. I don't care. Dude, go back and look at Cleveland. Go back and look at Carolina. I didn't even mention Carolina the other day. Okay, don't even get me started in Carolina. And the only reason why he got to play in LA was because Stafford was hurt, and I was about as good as the backups they had that weren't named Mayfield. So they trust me, man. I'm kind of staying away from this team. If I'm you guys are listening to me talk about these guys, I'm staying away from them. I maybe go get Rachaad White if he ends up being the guy, and they don't go get somebody in free agency to share carries with him. I can get on board Rachaad White. Mayfield's going to be dumping it to him as much as he can anyways, because those are going to be the only throws he might be able to make on a consistent basis, And then, who knows what happens with the offensive line. Maybe he didn't have as much time to throw. Brady was under duress. Mayfield's not much faster than Brady. Mayfield will get tracked down by anybody in this league now. He's, You basically think about Mayfield back when he was in Oklahoma and he was able to scramble and get outside the pocket. He hasn't been able to do that at the NFL level. Really go back to when he was drafted first overall, and in his first season, he's a pocket passer type of guy. He has to be. So can that offensive line hold up? Do they go get somebody in the draft? That offensive line, they probably will, but I don't know, man. I'm out on this team in general. Godwin, 16's a little high for me now that I think about it in our league, at least in my league. This guy got him for 11 last year. I'm not paying anything north of 11 this year for this guy in my league. If I try to go get him, which I probably won't, but say he's there and I'm like, oh man, I gotta maybe go get this guy. As soon as that bid goes up to 12, I'm out. Pickens, 17 seems kind of high for Pickens, but he's got to get drafted for more this year. I think last year somebody got him for like pennies on the dollar last year. I think it's the same guy. I think it's Del Rey. I think Del Rey had him in our league. He's the guy who had Jefferson, Chase, and more than likely keeps who's the other guy that he's going to keep that's in the top 10? Oh, Garrett Wilson. He's probably going to keep Garrett Wilson. So he's going to end up having to let this guy go. Pickens could be, he's an under the radar guy. I do think 17 is a little high. Would I pay $17 for him? Maybe. Would I like to get him at like 10 though? Yeah, obviously. Anything less than 10. I think this guy was drafted for $1 last year. So now my league, they're on the lookout for guys like this guy, especially when he's going to his second year. They know that this guy is he probably fell under the radar in his rookie season. There were like people didn't think he was going to be quite so good, and then he He looked like he was pretty good if Pickett could get his crap together and improve a little bit. This guy, he's probably the number one receiver in town now. Deontay Johnson is getting older. But even if Johnson has a bounce back year and can stay healthy, because that's kind of his issue, this guy's a monster. This guy's a monster. And he's really just like a monster that's in the cage and he's waiting to be let loose. Now, how much do the Steelers sling the ball this year? Maybe not as much as your average team, or maybe not as much as some of the teams that throw it a lot. I think they're going to try to get back to the run this year. They're going to hopefully go get an offensive lineman in the draft, get Najee Harris going. They're going to run Najee into the ground. This guy's 6'3", 200 pounds, out of Georgia. I remember watching him a couple years ago, Georgia, when they won that first national title. This guy is the real deal. This guy is a big physical guy. Not quite DK Metcalf, but he's like a smaller version of DK. Not super small, but he's a little bit smaller. DK is like an inch taller and about 30 pounds heavier. And this guy could be really, really good value. This is what I'm talking about. This is the guy, value-wise, that you have to take a gamble on, especially if you can get him like under $8. Say my $17 price is just way too high. I'm sure there's some people out there that are willing to pay about $15 for this guy, which isn't a bad deal if he turns out to be decent. He finished 39 in PPR. That's not bad considering literally the first 3 weeks didn't even use the guy hardly. He played every game except for one. Actually, no, he did play every game. He just didn't get the ball thrown to him against Philly. Let's look at his snap percentages. 71, 85, 76, 70, 76, 83, 79, 86, 75, 86, 78, 68, 76, 66, 81, 73, 63. This guy's a starter. He's a number one, number two receiver. And you can get this guy for probably pennies on the dollar this year again, because he didn't have that great of a season. People don't like his quarterback for the most part, at least not yet. I do think Pickett can get better. Like, would I rather have Pickett over Baker? Yeah. And, you know, if you would rather have Baker over Pickett, then you are having delusions, okay? Pickett's going to be better than Baker. You watch. I mean, Baker's already... I mean, the guy was the number one pick, for crying out loud, and he's not looking very good. Think he's going to be a Hall of Famer like he should be? Nope. I like Pickett if you can get him for like $10 or even in the single digits. Maybe my $17 price is too high, but... because I would probably pay somewhere around 15 for this guy. 15, 16, maybe 17 if I really needed him and I had the extra money. But, all right, Jerry Jeudy, 25. Best receiver in Denver, in my opinion. He's still young, 24. I know he had some injury issues, but this guy can go for cheap. You can get this guy for pennies on the dollar. For, you know, compared to what he probably went a couple years ago and even last year. Let's see what this guy went for. Yeah, he went for $1 last year. Yeah, I mean, I do have him kind of rising a little bit just because the Broncos might bounce back a little bit this year. Sutton's kind of getting a little older. Jeudy maybe becomes the number one guy. 2 years ago, he went for $9. So these guys might be a little high, now that I think about it. But I would pay north of $12 for Judy, you know, and I wouldn't feel bad about it if he's my number 3 guy, or even my number 2. If he's my number 2, I'd like to get him for under 10. All right, let's move on. I'm not going to talk too much on Judy. I would take him over some of these guys. But I do want to see kind of like, as the off season goes on into the summer, you know, make sure he doesn't get hurt. Make sure there's no news of any kind that we miss. So, all right, let's move on here. 26 through 50. You know, I do still have some of these guys going for north of $10. Jameson Williams, 26. This guy could have been in my top 25. All right. Take a gamble on this guy. That's all I'm gonna say, is take a gamble on him. Find some decent value. Don't overpay for him. You know, don't go north of this number. This number is probably a little high. Okay? So don't go north of this number. If you do, he's gonna have to pay off for you in order for him to meet his value. But if you get this guy for like $5, $6, and you're in a keeper league, this guy could be a home run. This guy could be what we like to call a steal. The sirens are going off. The police are showing up. There's a robbery in progress, right? So, and he's young. He's 22. That's why. You gotta think, he sat out for like pretty much the whole season, that ACL. I wasn't mad about that. You know, I did want to try to pick this guy up off the waiver, and I didn't. Somebody else did, but I don't think they're gonna keep him. Hopefully not. But this guy is the type of guy like Olave, or say the guy who drafted what's the other guy? You know, the guy that got Higgins a couple of years ago when he got him for $3, okay? The guy who got Debo, really Debo, the last few, you know, this would be first year keeping this guy. But the guy who kept him the first year, he ended up trading him last year. He got him for $4. He drafted Debo 2 years ago for $4. That's why this guy's keeping him for 14 this year, if he keeps him. Which, as much as I was, you know, I was talking bad about Debo, as much as I'm not really looking to get him, that's still a bargain price for him at $14. So, some of these guys, yeah, I'm not super high on, but if you got guys like in, you know, some of these guys in my league that are keeping these guys for pennies on the dollar for what they probably could be if they were put back into the draft, and then, you know, renominated into the draft, these guys are going higher. So it's all about value in the auction league. I say that over and over, and I know I sound like a broken record, but somebody like Jameson Williams, you get this guy for low. He's coming off of a season where he missed a lot of time due to the ACL, which is good because you want him to recover. And then he had that last stretch of games, like 3 or 4 games or whatever it was that he played, where he didn't perform out of, like, you know, like, and just go nuts. But you see what the guy can do. The guy can fly down the field. He's a deep threat on every single play. And he used those last 4 games to get that knee correct. Now it's really going to be, he's going to get like straight into football shape, perfect condition throughout this all season. And he's going to be the number 2 guy, maybe the number 1 guy. I mean, St. Brown is a slot type of guy. This guy, as far as the deep ball goes, running that 9 route, being the guy on the outside, this guy's number 1 now. Chark's gone. I think he was better than Chark anyways. But, you know, don't overpay for him. I don't think you have to. I don't think you will have to. You know, hopefully some of these guys in your league forget about him. But you get this guy for cheap and you're in the keeper league in the auction. This is how you build a roster where you're doing something like what I did, where I have Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, and I'm keeping both of those guys this year for under $50, which is a steal. Those guys should be going for 50 a piece. They would go for about 50, probably 45 to 50 a piece if I didn't keep them and I just threw them back into the draft pool. But that's a benefit of being in like a dynasty, or being, in my case, in a 3-year keeper. You can keep a player for up to 3 years. It's finding value with these guys who aren't really known. You take a gamble and it pays off. It either pays off or it don't. But even if it doesn't pay off, you didn't spend a whole lot of money on these guys in the first place. So you just had the balls to go out and get them, you know, with your last couple picks or your last 3 picks, and you know, you had the courage to spend a couple dollars on them, a couple more than say somebody else. So, all right, we're gonna fly through the rest of these guys for the most part. I'm just gonna give you a little bit of my opinion. I'm not gonna go super in depth on them. I am super tired and I need to get off of here. Marquise Brown. Don't overpay for this guy. I know he's number 1 on that team now, pretty much. I mean, Hopkins won't be there. At least we think. I have Hopkins a little bit down the list. I have Rondale Moore down at 49. Hopkins is 31. He's got one. I don't even think he has one more good year. I think he has an okay year. If he goes to a contender, he can produce. He might have a week or two where he produces, but Hopkins is done after this year, in my opinion, as far as being fantasy relevant. Okay, fantasy. As far as being fantasy relevant, the guy's 31. Okay, he's toting the line. He could maybe have one more decent year. I'm not gonna say great. He's not finishing top 5. Okay, those days are behind him. He's not gonna be that guy anymore. He's not that guy anymore. So, Brown's the number 1 guy there now. He's decent. Don't like him for more than the price tag here, though. I don't. Maybe 15 or 16, but that's about it. Calvin Ridley. Get this guy for cheap. Don't spend a bunch of money on him. Okay. We've seen what happens to guys who've missed a bunch of time, like a whole season. Okay, it's not good for him. I'm just going off the history. Okay, I do like this guy, and this guy, he is going to be 29 this year. I don't think a lot of people realize that. Calvin Ridley's getting up there in age. He's got a year or two of being a pretty solid player, a pretty solid number 1 receiver, in my opinion. But it might, don't be shocked if you draft this guy and it takes a few weeks for him to get into the groove of things. Okay, he's also competing with a pretty good Christian Kirk, a pretty good Evan Ingram at tight end, and Travis Etienne in the backfield. Okay, so there's a lot of mouths to feed on this offense, and this offense is going to be good. It's going to be dynamic. So don't overspend on this guy. I'm telling you, it's $13 for a reason. The guy missed a whole season. I don't care if he's maybe he was working all off season. When you miss that kind of time away, because it's not like he's out getting reps in the off season with some of the best quarterbacks or Trevor Lawrence. That guy would have been that guy was playing. He was actually playing during the season. So I'm telling you, man, 13 is the limit on this guy. Maybe 15, but don't go higher than that. You're gonna be You're gonna be a little disappointed in my opinion, especially to start the season off. It's gonna take this guy a few games to get into a rhythm, so just keep that in mind. There's gonna be people that go. There's gonna be people that go draft this guy, and even in an auction, like they might spend $20 on this guy. Oh, Calvin Ridley, and he's gonna have a rough few games. He's gonna get off to a slow start. Let's just put it that way. And there's gonna be a ton of people out there who just they're done with this guy. That's what's gonna happen. They're gonna be done with it. They're gonna be like looking to trade this guy, and you go snag this guy and buy him low. I'm telling you, just we're gonna revert back to like everything I'm saying. And if I'm wrong on some of this stuff, you know, it's possible, but there might be a chance for somebody like Ridley that if you don't have him, you might be able to just go get him for nothing in a trade, because somebody might, if he gets off to a slow start, there's gonna be people who spent money on this guy like I'm trying to cut my losses. I'm trying to hedge out of this bet. That's what they're gonna be like. And you can just go get him for something cheap. And then I think he starts to progress as the season. Just watch. He's gonna progress as the season gets deeper and deeper. But in the beginning, he's going to have a slow start. I spent too much time on him. Anyhow, Dotson. I love Dotson. You know, if you don't like this guy, you got delusions, okay? This guy's going to be good. I don't want to hear what anybody's, you know, if somebody is, you know, not in on this guy, then... especially if you can get him for cheap, which you probably will. He's probably going to be cheaper than McLaurin. This guy is a really good receiver. And if they get a quarterback, or if Howell turns out to be a pretty good quarterback, you know, don't be afraid to go get this guy at all. Just don't. You're gonna be cashing in if you go get this guy and he's your third or fourth receiver. You're gonna be cashing in. So if he's your third or fourth receiver, he's a solid option. Go get him for like $10. He's young too, so you might be able to keep him in a keeper league. Or you know, you might want to, I should say. Mike Williams, oh my goodness, 29 years old, $24. I'd like to get him for like 20 or less. 24 is pushing it for me personally. So, you know, hey, you know, if you draft this guy for like $25 or more, man, I don't think you're going to be happy with what happens throughout the year. He could have a decent year. I worry about him staying healthy. He is the number one guy now, so that's good. I thought he should have been the number one guy like 2 years ago, to be honest. I was out on Keenan Allen a long time ago because he's Julio Jones 2.0. He has a hamstring problem every single year, every single week for that matter. So, don't pay more than this price tag for him. I don't think. I think if you're gonna pay more, there's other people to go get. If I'm being honest. Christian Kirk. He's got a year or two left of being a decent receiver in Jacksonville. He's going to be cheaper than somebody like Mike Williams, and I think he can probably produce the same, if not a little more, than Mike Williams. He's going to be a little cheaper now that Ridley's there. And, you know, he could maybe get close to 20, but I still like him at 20. Not much more than that, but go get this guy if you get the extra money and you need like a number 3 receiver. This guy's a number 3 receiver, by the way, on your roster, more than likely. He could be number 2, but you could get this guy at number 3. You're solid. Deontay Johnson, 27 as well. Got him for 17 as well, projected. Don't pay more than this price tag. Okay? Don't do it. Don't do it. Because one, he's coming off of a semi-bad year. He's probably not worth more than 17. At that point, you're hoping for him to actually play decent, because if not, you're not gonna get the return on your investment. Get this guy for like 12 or 11. That would be nice at your number 3 receiver. But 17, don't pay any more than that. Maybe don't even go over 15. So he's not on a super pass heavy team, and you know, we got to wait to see if Pickett can get better on top of it. Traylon Burks, Tennessee, 23. He's going for about he's going for 8. I missed Ayuk. Ayuk at 12. Don't pay more than that. Just don't. You don't need to. This guy's not really on anybody's radar for a bunch of money, in my opinion. So, or I would say just about everybody's opinion. Get this guy for less than this number, though, for sure. If you go get him, he's only 25. You can have a couple good games here and there, and who knows what happens with Debo. Maybe Debo ends up aggravating something, missing a few games. He seems like he's missed a few games almost every year. So, but they have McCaffrey there too, so you know, this guy's a third option. He's a third or a fourth option. Who knows? Maybe Kittle's in front of this guy as far as the option. So don't overspend on this guy at all. Traylon Burks, 23 years old, projected $8 in Tennessee. This guy could be a steal. All right, he could be a steal. Sound the alarm. There's a robbery in progress. If you get this guy for like half of $8, you might be able to get this guy for less than this. This number is the high number. This is like the max, in my opinion. I don't think anybody in anybody's league is going to be paying more than $8 or $7 for this guy. You might be able to get this guy for $3 or $4. And in the keeper league, this is where the value comes into play. This guy's young. He's 23. He's a pretty good receiver. They have no quarterback. So, you know, they're not going to be playing for anything this year, you know, and they might actually draft up to go get a quarterback this year is the thing. And they're going to be bad this year, okay, on top of it. So, but I'm talking about getting this guy for this year for cheap, pennies on the dollar, no more than like $5, and then you keep him for next year. If it turns out that they got Richardson in the draft this year and they benched him, you know, they sat him behind Tannehill going into next year, and now the future's looking bright for this guy. Okay, so this is where, you know, you take the gamble, but it might pay off down the road. Now, obviously, I want you to have 3 receivers in place before you go get this guy, at least. I don't think he's a guy, you know, he's a guy who can have a game or two here and there. You know, he'd be a solid number 3 receiver. But would I like you to have 3 other guys? Sure. This guy's not going to be producing 20 and 15 point games on a reg with Tannehill at his quarterback. Okay? This team's not even sniffing the playoffs, in my opinion. I don't think they. I think they'll be lucky if they get 3rd in their division, to be honest. I mean, but the playoffs.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs?
Are you kidding me? I'm with you on that one, Jim. Because don't talk about it. Not with this team. Not with Tannehill at quarterback, at least. And even if they do put one of these rookies at quarterback, I don't see him taking them to the playoffs. Jags are going to win that division. They're going to be lucky if they can get past the Colts. And the Colts aren't even that good. I mean, this is one of the worst divisions in football, in my opinion. It was probably one of the worst last year. It's going to be one of the worst this year too. I think they might have trouble with Houston if Houston gets Bryce Young. So Hopkins, we already went over him. We already told him
You're not that guy.
he's not that guy anymore. So if you get him, like this $15 price is expensive, and it's because of name recognition. Could he go for less? Sure. But is there some weirdo in your league who like sees his name and is like, oh my god, name recognition? Those are the guys that I go get, you know, because I have about his age, you know, they have delusions about his age. It's like in the bright red along with Keenan. You see all these guys in the bright red? There's so many people out there that are having delusions about these guys, about them like regaining a top 10 spot in fantasy. Don't have those delusions. Save yourself some money, save yourself the agony and the pain of spending a bunch of money on these guys. Hopkins shouldn't go for more than 10 in my opinion, especially like until we find out where he's playing. We got to find out where he's playing. If he goes to the Jets, yeah, he can have an okay year, but he's not a number 1 or a number 2 receiver in fantasy in my opinion anymore. He's not. He's just too old. He's going to be a guy who can contribute if he's got complementary pieces around him. He can be a guy who helps the team get into the playoffs, helps the team get to the Super Bowl. But he's not a guy who's like week in and week out is going to get you 30 points a game, 20, 30 points in fantasy. That's not him anymore. He's an old man, okay? And we got to see where he goes. He doesn't go to a contender. I really don't like him. I can manage to pay $10 for him if he's my 4th receiver. And, everybody else is already out on him because of his age. I already have 3 receivers, so maybe I can pick him up to have a 4th, and insert him into the lineup in various situations, not on a week in and week out basis. That's behind him. He's not doing that anymore. Mike Evans is close to the same thing, in my opinion. But I got him going for... I think there's some people out there that think he has one more season, which could be the case. Oh, I'm sorry for yawning. I am just so tired. I'm trying to get through these guys. Mike Evans, though, $30. It is kind of high. It probably is on the high spectrum, but there's people out there, man, that think he's probably got one more year left, and I don't see it. Could he get through 13, 14 games this year? Sure. Once again, though, he's got Baker Mayfield on his team throwing him the ball. So, I only got one thing to say about, Tampa Bay players as far as anybody who's drafting them. If you're drafting them, this is all I can tell you. I mean, get ready for 2024 if you're drafting a bunch of Bucks players in fantasy. That's all. Rachaad White is a decent pick. You can get him at RB2, but everybody else, man, it's you're having delusions about them being good. Don't just remember they're only delusions, okay? All right, moving on. Hey, Mike Evans, don't pay more than like $15 for him, okay? If you do, you're putting too many eggs in one basket, in my opinion. Brandon Cooks, $18. He's in Dallas now. He is also going to be 30 this year. He's had some injuries in the past, so that could be concerning. Just like Mike Evans, these guys both will pull a hammy. We'll have a hamstring issue at some point in the middle of the season. Okay, you can almost guarantee it. Almost. It just happens every year. That's all I can say. It just happens like every year. And Cooks runs 9 routes. He's going to be running the 9 route. He's a fast guy, but at the same time, these fast guys that are fast, but then they're old, sometimes their hamstrings can't hold up throughout a 17-game season. $18 is a little high for me. Because you could maybe go get Kirk for cheaper. You could maybe go get you probably will get Dotson for cheaper. You probably will get Jameson Williams for cheaper, you know. So it's a little high for my liking. He's name recognition to a degree. Some people, and then he just went to Dallas, which is going to boost him up a little bit as far as his projection. That's why I have him projected here. People are like, oh, he's playing for a contender now, blah blah blah. You know, if you live down in Dallas or something and you play fantasy with a bunch of Dallas fans, they're gonna be as soon as that guy comes up, they're gonna be, you know, emptying out the register for this guy as far as what he probably should go for and what he's, you know, what they're gonna end up paying for him. So get him for like $12, 13. You know, don't spend 18. You know, maybe even get him for like 10. Try to. If he goes past 10 and you're bidding on this guy, just let him go. Just let him go. There's other fish in the sea. Allen. What can I say about this guy? This guy. If you draft this guy. I can't stop laughing. If you draft this guy, better luck next year. It's pretty obvious. It's straight to the point. This guy's 31. He has a hamstring issue. I only have him projected to go in the 20s because he's name recognition. Dude, somebody paid like $30-something for this guy last year in our league. I almost want to see what it was. I think it was like 30. I was laughing at it. I said, this guy's going to... I literally called this one on draft night. I said, this guy's going to have a hamstring issue. You watch. And what happened? The guy had a hamstring issue again. And then they're like, oh, does anybody remember when he got injured and he had this hamstring issue? And they're like, oh, he'll be back in like 2 weeks. You're like, okay. You're like, okay, you know. All right, 2 weeks goes by. You're just kind of chilling. And you're like, okay. Hey, you starting Keenan Allen this week? Yeah. They said he's going to be back. And then like 3 days or like, you know, he's game time decision on Sunday. And like the injury report comes out. They're like, yeah, expect him to be out another week or two. And all his owners are like this. This is all his owners. Bro, I thought you said he was playing this week. So then he sits out like another 2 weeks. And then they do it again. They're like, oh, expect Keenan Allen to be back. Give Herbert some help. He's going to be opposite of Mike Williams finally. And then his owners are like, bro, when's this guy coming back? You know, he doesn't even end up coming, you know, he ends up coming back eventually, but it's half the season's gone. You're like, I'm telling you, I want to see what somebody spent on this guy. I know it was a lot. $25. Oh my God. Somebody spent $29 on him 2 years ago, and then they spent $25. So you ask, why do I have him projected at 23? This is why. He's got name recognition. The guy, look, he had a falling off last year, and I kind of predicted it. The year before, he went for 214, which was okay. 214 points wasn't bad. then 205, 214, 220, 247 the year before. Dude, this guy's been in the league since 2013. This guy is done. This guy's been in a car wreck. He's probably been in a few of them. He's been in a few of them. Let's give him another one. This guy's been in so many car wrecks. He's had so many injuries and just hamstring, you know, hamstring tightness every year. This guy's done. He's done. Don't go draft him for anything near like $10. Okay? I got him projected to just go in the 20s because there's going to be some person out there, and there's probably one of these guys in just about every league, like Keenan Allen, comeback player of the year this year, and you know what I'm saying? You know, that's what I'm thinking. Good, yeah, good. You know, go get that guy. Go spend $20 on that guy. Good. Stay away from that guy. Enough, you know, let's move on. Next. Cortland Sutton. It's going to be 28. 15's a little high for my liking on this guy, too. But there's some people that might think he's got another year, maybe. This guy's got 1 year max. And that's even if he's got that, I think. He might have one decent year, and I'm not even talking 250 points in a half PPR league. You know, he's got maybe 200 points this season, and then I think he's done. If he doesn't get it this season, he's done. He's
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
he's not that guy. Not that guy anymore. He never really was. He did have one promising year though, and then I think it got derailed by an injury. If I'm correct, I'd have to go look. But don't even spend 15 on this guy. That's high for him in my opinion. Is it out of the question? No. There's somebody that might spend that money on him, but it's high for me. Go get Judy. Go get somebody else. Just go get somebody else that's above Hopkins. You know, at 35. That's not close to being in a retirement home. Elijah Moore, 23 years old, in Cleveland this year. This is another one of those value picks, okay? I got him projected to go for like $4 here. He might go for a little more. He might even go for a little less. Who knows? I do kind of worried about him not being used a whole lot last year in New York, but he's coming into an offense that's going to use him. Deshaun Watson is probably an upgrade at quarterback from what they had last year. Hopefully he picks it back up. I mean, you see what happened. Watson missed that whole year, and then he missed 13 games on top of that. And he just, you could tell he wasn't the same quarterback. So maybe, you know, maybe Watson bounces back. Maybe he doesn't. If he does, it'll be, if Watson bounces back to be the quarterback that we know he can be, this guy, I'm not saying he's like finishing like top 20, but this guy, you get him for $3, $2, and then you're able to keep him next year. I think this guy could be a very good value pick as far as getting him for cheap, producing as a wide receiver 3. It's like a mid-tier wide receiver 3 potentially, maybe even like a high-end wide receiver 3, and then you might be able to look to keep him going into next year, because if you're in a keeper league, because you're going to get this guy for cheap. So I like this guy. If you can go get him for like $3 or $4 at the end of the draft, basically. Tyler Lockett. I don't know if this guy's going to keep him or not. I'm in my league. He would keep him for $7 if he did. So 16 is, you know, he did now this guy will go for like 15 or 16. He's also 31. He's going to be 31 this year. I would, this is me. This is just me. I would move off of this guy. If you have this guy, like this guy in our league, whom I have projected to keep him, he keeps him. He should try to get everything he can right after the draft. As soon as the draft's over, he should try to trade this guy like the next minute after the draft is over and just try to get something for him. He may not get something that's like super crazy, but he should just try to go get something. The guy is 31. This is definitely his last year of being a decent wide receiver. This is his last year. If he could make it to 33 and have another good year after this year, good for him. But if as a fantasy owner, I'm getting off the ship before it sinks. It's probably going to sink this year. I think you see Seattle go get a receiver like Zay Flowers or somebody like that in that ballpark with the 20th pick this year. With their second pick in the first round, number 20. And it's to replace this guy. It just is. This guy's going to be 31. If you think this guy isn't going to fall off potentially this year, if you think he's got like a really good 250 point fantasy production for this year at age 31, I think you are having delusions about that, because age, there's a reason why the age is in the red, dude. It's not because it's not in the red because I put it there. It's in the red because he's on the high end of the age spectrum. And history shows that these guys, especially when they're like 31 and 32, 31 and 32 is like really kind of the drop off. I would say on average it's like 30/31. But it only gets to like 32 if it's a guy who's really, really good at receiver or tight end or whatever. Like Kelsey's 32. I think he's going to be 33 this year. But he is a Hall of Fame player. These Hall of Fame players and all pro players, they're kind of the outliers as far as the age goes. Tyler Lockett's, I don't even think he's a Pro Bowl player really over the last couple of years. He could be done this year. Wouldn't spend too much on him. If I had him in a keeper, if I had him in a dynasty, I would be trying to trade this guy for whatever I can get to trade in to get a newer car, trade in to get a car that has less miles on it. 42, Wan'Dale Robinson. This guy's young. You're going to get this guy for next to nothing. Go get him if you can. Get him at wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. You'll spend $1 or $2 on him. I think he's worth a shot. He looked pretty promising until he got hurt. I wouldn't say promising, but he looked like a good prospect to have on your roster for cheap. That's not a wide receiver 3 or a wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 1. It's a guy that you could just have sitting on your bench for next to nothing and just wait to see what happens. Wait to see if he blows up. Don't go spend like 5 or more on this guy though. It's a little too much. Just go get him for $1 or $2. See what happens. Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer could probably be higher up on this list. He probably will be higher up on this list. After I've looked at it, he's going to be higher. He's only 24. A little bit of the injury concern from, the injuries that he did have last year. He was banged up. I wouldn't say he was injured. He was just banged up last year. But Keenan Allen's gone, dude. Keenan Allen's he's you know, he's got a foot out the door. And Williams, we don't know if Williams can stay healthy or not. He always has some kind of little issue every year. It's something. And I drafted the guy last year, and then I traded him for Breece Hall. You want to talk? You know that's what I did with Williams. I had Williams on my team last year, and I went and got Breece Hall, and this is kind of what happened after I did that. That's what I did with Mike Williams. So that's how I stand on Mike Williams as far as that. But Palmer, he's going to be a solidified number 2 guy. If he can stay healthy, this guy could be a sleeper under $10. If you get this guy for under $10, you know, I don't think there's really a much better deal out there as far as other guys. There might be a couple who have better value, but $8 or $9 for this guy is a bargain in an auction league when he's got somebody like Justin Herbert throwing him the ball. And he's got Mike Williams on the other side, which is not a bad thing. Not a bad thing that he's got a better receiver on the other side of him who may not be better than him for much longer. But it's not a bad thing. If anything, it's probably a good thing. It takes a little less attention off him. So, go get Palmer. I am all in on Palmer. You can cash it. Cha-ching. Take it to the bank. Gabe Davis also going to be 24 this year in Buffalo. He's going to be a little more expensive than Palmer. He's a little more known. But I wouldn't spend too high on this guy. I'm not saying he can't be good. This guy could be a wide receiver 2 in the league. He really could. He could be a low end wide receiver 2 in fantasy. I'm hoping he kind of breaks out this season. It's either now or never. I just feel like it's now or never. He is young though. He is super young. I thought he was older than this. Because you got to think Diggs is 30. Diggs has 6 years on this guy. 6. So I wouldn't spend more than like 16 or 17 on this guy, but I would probably go up to 15. You know, it really just depends on what your roster is looking like and how much budget, you know, how much you got left on your budget as far as spending. But if you get the money, you get a little bit of extra cash to go get this guy, and maybe you spend 14 or 15 on him instead of what I got him projected at. I would probably do it depending on who is left. You know, if somebody like Palmer's gone, you got Moore gone. You can get somebody like Cooks and all these other guys, Burks, Kirk, all these guys which are probably gonna be gone. I think he's the last good receiver, like good potential number 2 guy on the board. I don't think Mooney's that guy. I don't think Juju's that guy. Boyd is 29 this year. He's not that guy. He's the number 3 option. I don't think Moore and Bateman could have a chance to be a number 2 receiver in the league, but they got to stay healthy. That's why I don't like Moore and Bateman for the most part. They can't stay healthy. Bateman, it's like the whole season last year. Moore has a hamstring issue every other week, seems like. Davis is the last like real threat to pay low and cash in. He ends up being way above his value, you know, as far as, you know, paying low, and then he could maybe break out. So he's the last one here in the top 50 in my opinion. There might be a rookie or two later past 50, but that's about it. Somebody like Davis, who's been in the league 3 years or more, there's plenty of them past 50, but they don't have the potential that he has. So Myers, he's going to be 27. He's still in New England. Don't pay more than like $5 for this guy. Okay, I know some people want to think that he's good and that he could have a good year, and he's not a bad player. But he's got Mac Jones as this quarterback. They still got Parker. They went out and got Juju, who we're about to get to in a second, who's actually the same age, who's going to be prioritized maybe a little more with the money that they just paid him. So if you want to spend more than $5, you go ahead, you be my guest. But you know, I mean, it's too much for me, dude. It's too much for me. And if I see somebody in my league who wants to go spend like $10 on Myers because they've I don't know why they're in love with this guy. He plays for the Patriots. He's got Matt Jones as his quarterback. I'm just gonna be sitting there like, yeah, good. Go get him. Go get that guy if you want him. So Tyler Boyd's 29. Don't pay more than $5 for this guy either. He's old. He's getting old. He's not going to be worth it. We're getting to that point where a lot of these guys just don't go spend a boatload of money on them. Juju at 15, Darnell Mooney at 16. I think that's a little high for those guys too. I would try to get somewhere in like 8 or 9 range, somewhere in the single digits for these other two guys. They're not quite that old, where they're going to be maybe falling off a map. Mooney, I think, could have a bounce back year with DJ Moore in town. Maybe they use him a little different in the scheme of things, on offense. But Mooney's not a guy who's like I think it was last year. Mooney was like, people were super high on Mooney. Don't do it. Spend like a few dollars to get him. Same thing with Moore. Same thing with Bateman. I wouldn't worry about Odell being in. Now with Odell and say they go get Quentin Johnson, I'd be worried about Bateman. I honestly, I don't even think I'm drafting Bateman at that point. If I am, it's for like literally nothing. It's like $1 or $2. It's like maybe $3 or $4. It's not 13. More, you're gonna be able to get more for like 5 or 6, maybe 4 where he's projected to go to. Just depends on who needs what, and they see that guy there and they think something of him and they're like, I need to go get this guy, and they end up spending, overspending to get him. But I wouldn't go too much more than some of these projected values on a lot of these guys. So yeah, with that being said, man, I'm gonna cut it right here. I'm gonna cut the stream here. We're just over 2 hours. I need to kind of look and see. I was using some of my new soundboard stuff, so I want to see how that turned out. Maybe I need to adjust some volumes and stuff on this. So we're gonna call it there, guys. We will go over 51 through 100 tomorrow in the morning, probably, and I'm gonna fly through it, and then we might talk about just some news. And then after that, I'm gonna, it's gonna be a short stream. I'm not gonna stream for probably more than what I did today, maybe a little less than what I did today. I'm gonna try to, at least. I gotta start making videos. I gotta start making some shorts, some TikToks, so and even some actual like 5 to 10 minute videos as well. So yeah, with that being said, man, I am out of here. We will catch you guys tomorrow. Have a good night. I'm out of here. We will catch you guys tomorrow. Peace.